what will be the number one challenge that you face as a startup in the IT sector in Pakistan right now? It can be anything. People don't understand the requirement, lack of internet, everything. Guys, put it in the chat box. What is the number one challenge that you are facing currently in your organization? Difficult to understand requirement. Thank you, Ahmed. Loved it. It's one of the biggest challenge faced all over the world, that requirements are not clear. They are not specific. The customer does not know, or they don't have an agreed acceptance criteria. Now, this is a very big challenge. Agreed acceptance criteria. What do you actually want? I wanted a home button so that I can put a video there. You made that thing, and then the customer say, no, I also want to put GIF. I also want to put podcast. I also want to put that thing. Now, all of these are the different requirements. Tight deadlines by the client. Yeah, I'm sure about that. Requirements are sometimes vague, less resource, scope creep. Again, going back to the requirements. That's why I wanted to work on requirement elicitation. According to Project Management Institute, requirement elicitation is one of the biggest problem. And if I say less resource, if I say tight deadline, Fazal, can we put it in the way stakeholder engagement? Engaging the stakeholder or customer satisfaction is a very big problem. Synchronization with development, quality assurance, and BA. Beautifully, Avaz. So one of the biggest challenges, like this is the entire cycle, na? Sales, BA, from BA to DevOps to QA, the entire things is there. So how we can work into that? Because requirement in one liner, but when we talk to BA, we have a no. Yeah, that's a very beautiful thing. I like it. So I'll come to that. We will answer all those challenges that you guys are facing. In between, if you have any question, please you can raise your hand or you can ask me directly. So first, I'm gonna give you the entire overview of project management from the PMI perspective. So if we work into that, the first thing is that why projects are even created, why projects are started, how in your organization we can say how the work gets started. It can be a customer requirement, which is mostly in your organization case. It can be that you want to improve something. And again, that can be something. Maybe tomorrow the government changes the law and you need to, in order to fulfill that legal requirement, you need to update something. And multiple other things can lead a project, can make a project. Okay, the project has to be done because of this XYZ reason. So any reason can make the project go, any reason can make sure that the project has to start it. So first of all, the most important thing is in an organization is always to look toward the need assessment. What is the need for a particular project? Why do we even need that particular project, and how that particular project is going to help us in gaining over things. So a particular project is started. Now, a client comes to you. A client does not come to you without any requirement, without any reason. If the client is coming, their organization has an organizational strategy. What do we want to achieve? The strategy can be to increase the revenue in that particular year. The organizational strategy can be to have a better interface. For example, I am looking at a software house to make my simulator, a new simulator. I am trying to work into that, and I need an organization which can develop into that, because in my organization strategy next quarter, I need to build that thing. So what organizational strategy is that? From there, the need assessment comes. From that need assessment, we basically look at the what project we are going to do in that particular organization. Organizational strategy defines the project. Now, any project that you start, it basically passes through these things. Initiation, project gets started, then you plan to the project, then you execute on the project, you are monitoring and controlling the project, and finally you close, handover, it goes to operation, it go live, whatever. It must pass through these 5 stages, or as PMI says, 5 process groups. This is important. A project is initiated, then it is planned, then it is executed, then monitor and control, then closing. We will go through in the depth of each of these things. Initiation. So in an initiation, once the need assessment is done, Then the BA team makes the business case of that thing. What does business case mean? In simple words, you want to buy a house. Why do you want to buy a house? Maybe you want to live it. You were living on a rent. Now you want to have your own house, which will help you basically to save that rent in a long cycle. Or in an organization, the benefit to cost ratio. In business case, we directly look at the what are the benefit for particular project. What is the ROI? That's a term that is used a lot in the organization. Return on investment. Hey, I am spending X amount of money on this pattern project. What is my return of investment or payback period? Let's say uh, any good organization is always bombarded with multiple projects. So what we need to do, we need to look at, okay, these are the two projects. We have limited resources. Which project will give us return of investment more, and which project will have less payback period, right? When I can get my money back, your principal money, when I can get back. So all these things are considered in a business case. Along the business case, another document is made that is called as benefit management plan. Now that's a very important thing. Many BAs made a mistake. They make a business case. That's a good thing. But what are the tangible benefits and as well as intangible benefit? What is intangible benefit? Any of you an Apple lover, Apple user or Apple lover, like someone who wants to buy Apple Mac, Apple 14, iPhone 14 or things like that? I am. I have almost majority of things like Apple, and majority of the people in all over the world, like 2 million, more than 2 million iPhone 14 have been sold, even before the pre-sold. What we say pre-sold? Why? Brand recognition. Brand recognition. That is not a tangible thing. That is not something you can measure uh, just by the cost of it. Okay, what is that thing? For example, Nike shoes and the shoes that you can buy in the local market, they can be 99% same. It is possible that the same organization have made two shoe pieces, but with this one arrow or Nike or whatever the just do it logo, the price of that shoes increases by $1,000 or maybe more than that. This is called intangible value. This is called brand value, things like that. If we just put a logo on this on and the price increases manifold, what is this? Brand value, intangible thing. So we need to see the project we are going to do, what is the business case, and what are the benefit management plan. Now my question to you is, as I want this session to be interactive, is there any kind of the project where ROI or money is not much, but benefits are so many that we go towards that? Is there any typical kind of project? Anyone can give example of that project where even the ROI is negative or it is not positive. We are not earning something, but still we do projects. Anyone can give me example. You can unmute yourself and give an example, or you can put in the chat box. G, anyone can give me an example of that kind of project?
Any B2G type of project?
B2G can be. What else? Mostly governmental project, the projects that is governed by any government, it can go out of the cost. Like in Lahore, we had that metro train and then metro bus, all were over budget. You cannot justify the ROI, but the intangible benefit were more. Whatever the benefits were aligned to that, the intangible benefits were more. So that is the power of benefit management plan. The organizations, when there's an India-Pakistan match, you see the same channel have a different type of commercials running at that particular time. And they are the most expensive commercial at that time. Why? At that time, people are watching, and you cannot justify the ROI of just putting into that context, because ROI is different for that particular thing. This is intangible value. I hope tangible and intangible are clear to you. Business case, benefit management plan are clear to you. Now, once that is done, once our business case and benefit management plan is approved by the governance board, steering committee, or project sponsor, whatever you may have in your organization. Fazal, what do you have? Being a business analyst, when you guys make business case and benefit management plan, who approved it? What do you call it? Project champion? Or what are the terms you know use?
Well, we have actually made a business analysis framework based on PMI guidelines, PMI practitioner guide for business analysis, and one other guideline. So in that, there are 6 stages like need assessment and then stakeholder analysis and planning. And then we move to requirement elicitation analysis, traceability and monitoring, and then we go to solution evaluation. We do not have currently a sort of benefit realization plan or something or like that, or business case, but we do have templates we have drafted for current state analysis and
Okay.
need assessment.
Okay. So if you get two different projects, how do you evaluate which one to go? That is solely based on ROI for now.
Well, usually management decides based on availability of resources
No.
and priority
Yeah,
based upon that.
but you guys do make business case for that, for the management to understand, okay, what is the purpose, as you said, according to the PMI guidelines, and as a result of passing through all the steps, the purpose is to make a business case and that get evaluated. In the solution delivery, we are evaluating that business case. So I
Yes.
believe you guys are making that particular thing. Okay, now once the business case is developed, once the business case is ready, now comes the most important thing for the project charter. Now we make a project charter here. Now we make a project charter. Now this is a very important document. This is the first document. I can say this goes to the project manager or project management team saying, okay, now the project is officially started. Now you can start working on this thing. Now we can work on that thing and we can produce multiple things into that. Project charter get officiated, and in the project charter, there's a reason written to that, why the project is being done, what is the benefit of the project, and all things that can be used from that particular project. Along the project charter, we start identifying stakeholder. Now, this is a very important thing. That stakeholder becomes a very important thing, and most of the time, if you miss a stakeholder and even you gain the do the proper project, you still your project is not successful. Why? One of the important stakeholder did not agree to that requirement, and that does happens at the end of sprint review. The stakeholder comes to you, and another stakeholder comes with them, and they say, "No, we never wanted this thing. We want that thing." And we say, "Oh, no, that was a requirement problem. Maybe BA messed up." No, 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 no. Project manager missed a key stakeholder. Project manager missed a key stakeholder. This is the job of the project manager to identify the stakeholder. This is the job of a project manager to make sure stakeholders are properly engaged. So we identify the stakeholders, we get into the stakeholders. Now, by identifying the stakeholder, we make a stakeholder register in which basically we prioritize which stakeholders are more important, which stakeholders are less important, what is their power, what is their interest, all those tools. I'm not gonna go into that detail because I want to give a summary of that. That become the 35 or session into that, going into that detail. So once the stakeholder register is done, your initiation is completion. Now initiation is done. Now we go to planning. Here in the planning thing, the first thing we need to decide, are we going to work in an agile domain or are we going to work in the predictive domain? Since your organization is a startup, it's an IT-based company, everything everything is basically worked into the agile domain. So for now, I will just put the discussion on the base of the agile. Okay. If anyone wants to ask any question about predictive, they can put in the chat box, or I can go directly to the agile thing. Okay. Okay. So now we move towards the agile domain. The agile is the thing which we want to do. Now in agile, we have multiple framework. Once we have decided that we want to do agile have a different frameworks. Lean, basically lean means waste removal. Agile comes from lean. Lean is a system which talks about how to remove the waste, how we can customize the things without going into, without making a mess with the minimum cost. Then Kaizen. Kaizen is a Japanese philosophy which means continuous improvement. That is also a subset of lean. Okay, it's not a methodology. Kanban. For us, you guys use Kanban boards, physical or electronic?
Yeah, on some projects we are following Kanban, and most of the projects we are following the Scrum method.
Yeah, yeah. So uh, in Kanban, you guys are using Kanban board physically or mostly electronically?
Basically, we use a tool for the project management.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
So either it's a sprints or either it's a Kanban we manage
mm-hmm.
on that tool.
Okay,
That is
okay.
electronically, yeah,
Yeah,
on
electronically. Okay.
digitally. We consider digitally.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, digitally. Okay, I would say high tech. I would high tech. I would put it high tech, low touch.
yeah,
Okay, yeah.
yeah.
So
No touch.
then comes the most famous framework, Scrum. Scrum is basically 90% of the agile, or I would say 90% of the organization uses Scrum. Scrum is an project management framework that works into the way you can customize it according to your requirement. But there are few things that I want to talk to you guys, what you are doing, what you are not doing, how we can improve into that. And one of the most important one will be daily stand up. I want to talk to you guys later on how you are conducting daily stand up and how effectively we can work into that, because that is something most of the teams, they try to follow Scrum, but when it comes to daily stand up it goes up to 2 hours, but we will talk about that. Then we have DSDM, crystal method, etc., etc. Okay, these are all the methodologies that agile uses, but agile does not stand on this thing. Agile stands on its four pillar, that is known as four values of agile. Now, these four values of agile, if ever you follow Scrum, you don't follow those four agile practices, those four agile values, it does not make sense. You may be using agile with a predictive mindset. I called it as a mindset game, that you need to change the mindset, how you use agile. Agile is not basically a methodology, if I put it that, it's more of the mindset, how we are going to use our mindset to work into that domain. Let me put this thing. The first value of agile. If anyone knows agile values, please put in the chat box. I would love to know your knowledge and work into that if anyone knows. The first value of agile, or the base on which agile works, is customer collaboration over contract negotiation. What does that mean? This means customer is the king. This means that the customer, working with the customer is more important. What the customer is asking, that is more important. Collaborating with the customer is more important as comparing to that, oh, this was written in the contract. We should follow the contract. Yes, we should follow the contract, but not every single time. Not every single time contract is important. Contract does not work into that way. We need to work into that thing. Customer collaboration over contract negotiation is one of the most important thing that you can work into that, into the agile, and agile preaches that. And second value correspond to the first value, respond to the change even late in the development. What does that mean? If you are making a product and customer comes to you and say, hey, I know you are making a product, you are doing very good thing, but the problem is that that project is not anymore feasible for me, that thing does not make work with me, I want to change something. You don't say that, okay, yeah, we will see that, but you have paid for this thing. No, 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 no. Going back to the first value, customer collaboration over contract negotiation, responding to a change even late in the development. We want to have a recurring customer. We want to run our businesses. It is as straight as we can put it. If you don't have customer, you don't have business at all. So in order to business to run, we want to have those customers, those recurring customers. We want to work with them. Every single organization which put importance on an employees and on its customer, they are prospering. Every other organization who does not give value to their customer, they are just going out of the way. Amazon came and they just dominated the world. Everything went online and they worked into that. If you remember, while you started your career, communication tool that was used in the organization was Skype. Everyone was using Skype business and things like that. But in the COVID time, the Skype did not give the flexibility to the world. Zoom out of nowhere came, and with its 40 minutes free meeting, people started using it, and then everyone started buying the premium membership. I actually started even for my online training first the free membership, that is 40 minutes meeting, and then I bought it. Every single person has done it. So that is a very important value to follow. The third value for the mindset of the agile comes to the people, individual, and their interaction over processes and tools. I understand you guys must have developed processes. You are in the fourth year of your organization. So after 1 or 2 years, organizations start developing the processes. So I understand you guys have strong processes, do this, do that. The processes are in place to make sure that things are running properly. And they are very important. If you don't have a system, then things will never work. For example, if HR haven't set this system for a learning session and put a specific time, maybe you guys would never have come. If Miriam haven't called me in the morning and reminded me that we have a session today, I would never have come here. Processes are there for a purpose, but individual and their interaction over processes and tools. For example, this session was scheduled last month, but I guess 2 or 3 days back, your HR team approached me and asked me if I can reschedule in the next month and because of etc. 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 I believe I try to have an agile mindset. Most of the time, I want to have an agile mindset. So I went to that individual and interaction over processes and tool and provided that because why? I want to provide, I want to collaborate with the customers. I want to work with them. I want to give value to the customer. And that is the most important thing. For me, you are all my clients. You are all my customers. Although I'm doing this for free right now, but as a general, when I'm working with that, as a customer, as I'm working into that particular domain. Okay. So putting that into that and the last value. Now the last value work into a very important thing. We need to understand the fourth value of agile that goes into the mindset how things should be built. Most of the time, guys, we do documentation, and we are not building the product. No, no, no. Agile says working software over comprehensive documentation. What does that mean? Anyone can tell me in one word, what does that mean? Working software over comprehensive documentation. What does that mean in an agile mindset?
That we should prioritize a working MVP rather
Yep,
than just focusing on
MVP.
developing piles of
Yes,
documentation.
yes, MVP. Make something, wireframes, like low fidelity wireframe. Instead of talking to that, okay, these are the all documentation that the customer talks. Okay, that is okay, but make something. Okay, now these were four values of agile. If I go to the slides and you want to look at the slides, so agile is basically a mindset having four values, 12 principles, and then all the practices. So these were the four values: individual and interaction, working software, customer collaboration, responding to a change. And then we have 12 principles. Those principles are basically reflected through that. This is taken from my Griff book, courtesy of my Griff books. How basically you work with that. These principles are again extension of the values. If you understand the agile values, if you understand the agile mindset, you understand how things should be done. Now let's go to Scrum. A little bit of the Scrum framework I want to talk the time we have, how things should be done in the Scrum framework. Now, in Scrum, we try to have three roles. Okay. And if you guys have any other role, we can discuss that. Product owner, team or development team. The third one is Scrum Master. The job of the product owner is to make product better, as straightforward as it can be done. The job of the product owner is to make product better. Team is there to work on that. Scrum Master is to make sure, like provide food and water to enhance the team, to make sure you get the necessary tools to work. to make sure right processes are being followed. Now, product owner can also be known as business analyst. He's that person who basically knows the product most, and he's the voice of the customer. In my point of view, if we call them a business analyst, that is also relevant. So, Zishan, in your organization, what do you call product owner? You call them product owner, or you call them business analyst, or something else?
We call them business analyst, and I am one of them also.
Yeah, you're one of them also. And do you have a defined role of a Scrum Master, or you call them as a project manager?
Project manager.
Project manager. And what about the development team? Have you divided the roles? Because this is the person doing that thing, or you call them entirely as a development team, or you make it as a
Um,
quality team, or a programmers, or things like that.
we have front end team, then we have back end team, then we have QA. All
You
are
have
all have their
yeah,
own teams,
all have their
and
own teams.
they have their own team leads as well.
Mm.
So whenever a project came, so they just, you can say, collaborate with each other.
Mhm. Okay, if we talk about the project, Jishan, normally one team have how many team members?
In front end, currently
Entire team. Let's talk about the entire team. Our product is being made. Product owner
six
is
to
one.
seven members, I believe.
Product owner, Scrum Master, or you call them project manager, plus how many team members?
Maybe it also depends on the size of the project as well.
Generally, on average.
Generally, one or two front end developers, one or two
Mhm.
back end developers, and a QA,
Okay.
one project
So
manager,
2,
and
4, 5, 6. Yeah. So according to Scrum, that's a good number. 8 to 12 team members are good number. So basically, how this came up in Amazon, they made two pizza rule. What they do, like two large pizzas can be enough for a one team. So they said 8 to 12 people can eat the one pizza. Now that varies from, if my brother is sitting there, he can only eat the entire pizza. So that depends from team to team. Okay.
that goes
So
for me as well.
yeah. So that depends from team to team. But as a general, team must have 8 to 12. Then we have ceremonies in Scrum. What are the ceremonies in the Scrum? If we look at that, the sprint itself is a ceremony. The length of the sprint should be 1 to 4 weeks. Normally it should be 2 weeks. Okay, normally it should be 2 weeks. Fazal, what is the strength like sprint on your organization? 1 week, 2 week, or 4 week?
Well, most of the projects last for each sprint lasts for about 2 weeks, but for some special projects, 1 week sprints are also there,
1 week sprint.
but not more
The
than 2 weeks.
Not more than one. It can be 1 to 4, but normally 2 weeks. Okay, if we and this is sprint. If we talk about agile, agile is working on progressive elaboration. What does mean by progressive elaboration? As you progress, as you move forward, things become more and more and more clear. First, you have agile charter, which tells you what you want to do. Then you set an agile vision. We can put into that. Then we get a product roadmap, like what we want to achieve. Then we have releases in them. And then we have sprint, which in Scrum, because of Scrum, we called it sprint as a general. In Agile, we can call it as iteration. So this is called progressive elaboration. As you progress, as you move forward, you basically get more and more defined on that. Then we have a sprint planning. What does sprint planning means? Planning for a particular sprint. And as a result of a sprint planning, we get sprint backlog. What we are going to do in that particular sprint. And as a result, we get sprint goal. I want to talk here to some project manager. Okay, someone, a project manager here, or still not interested to talk?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah. So normally, how long is your sprint planning? How many hours is it sprint planning?
So on average, we try to spend the very first day of that sprint to plan that,
How many
and you
hours?
can say
You spend the
around
entire day,
6 to 8 hours, you can say.
6 to 8 hours. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
And as a result of that, how many product How you prioritize the entire product backlog in the first sprint, or you just work
No,
for
no,
that particular
not the
sprint?
entire, not the entire. As soon as we cover the number of hours that is going to be in a sprint, so that is done for that part only, for that sprint only.
Yeah, yeah, okay. And let's talk about a little bit behind the sprint. How do you prioritize your product backlog? A very important thing. The
Okay,
product backlog
okay.
is a list of requirements having all the user story inside it. How do you prioritize that thing?
So there are two things that normally we follow or we look into it. One is what is required or priority set by the client feature wise.
Mhm,
And the
mhm,
second thing is which is a prerequisite for any feature that we for the for example the technical team that okay this is something prerequisite for a feature, so we need to do it before that we develop anything. So there
mhm,
are two things that we think before finalizing setting the priorities.
mhm. Is there any specific
There,
technique that you guys may use
there's,
to prioritize? Yes,
there's
Fazal?
one more thing that after some, you might say, a time period, there's also a backlog refinement session in which the BA sits
Backlog
with
grooming, we can
the,
say. Yeah.
yeah, backlog
Mhm,
grooming sessions.
mhm,
So
mhm.
approximately, you might say after 2 weeks or 3 weeks, something like that, in
Okay,
order to
okay.
So
prioritize the
ideally, we think it should be happening every sprint, and for some projects, we do have backlog grooming happening at least one time each sprint for the items in the next sprint to be prioritized and groomed.
Okay, I'm still trying to say who's talking. Still trying to find out who was talking.
Daniel,
Daniel.
I'm
Okay,
Daniel.
yeah, yeah. So, Daniel, do you guys do sprint zero, or also known as iteration zero, in which you work with the proof of concept? Like, if this project is
Probably
feasible,
we
or
yeah, yeah.
is
So
feasible.
we might not have called it as sprint zero, but
Mm-hmm,
we can call it as something where we decode the features
mm-hmm,
and
okay, okay.
we see if what's feasible to be done. So yes, we do have that kind of thing
You
happening, right?
Yeah, this is very important thing that is missed in multiple organization, that PMI called it as sprint zero, or can be called as iteration zero, in which basically team do the POC, proof of concept. Is it possible even to do that or not? I'm not talking about the time. Is it possible in that time or not? That's a secondary thing. Is it even possible to complete it or not? Is it even reasonable to do that or not? So POC, and plus we check whether we can do it or not. Do we have the technology at our hands or not? So,
in some projects, we also do a discovery phase, which may
mhm,
last up to a month as well, which you might
mhm.
say sort of cover that feasibility
Yeah,
study
yeah,
sort
of
of thing.
course,
We
of
try
course.
to find out the features, and we also discuss with the development team regarding either it's possible to
Mhm.
make any real or not.
Yeah, yeah, that's a very important thing that must not be missed. Otherwise, we will be working at the end of the day. And one interesting thing that we need to understand, we should prioritize the product backlog by high value and high risk. Let's give the maximum value to the customer front end, and plus the most risky item, which items can be a showstopper. And if something is a showstopper and we put it in the sprint 10, and at the end of the day we found out, oh, this cannot be done, so that basically it destroys your credibility, that reduce the things, like all the effort goes without any purpose. So we say in agile, build fast, fail fast. Okay, we
But
want to fail. Yeah.
in some cases, even the client is not sure if they want that feature to be done first. For example, there's some sort of a complex feature, and they say, okay, we will look into that later down the road. So in
It can be done.
practical,
Yes, it can be
high
done.
risk keys are sometimes pushed to
Yeah,
the backlog.
it can be done according to that, because the value has value is superseding the risk, and value is defined by the customer, right? So how value is defined? Value should be defined by the customer. This is the most valuable thing. This is less valuable thing. So if the customer says that, okay, I want this feature to check me later on, then we go back and we work into the feature later on, because high value is always the most important thing. High value, high risk. How we want to build a pattern thing, how we want to execute a pattern thing. That is the most important thing when we are building a feature. High value, high risk. And we go back to the mindset of Agile, which talks about customer collaboration over contract negotiation. If customer says, okay, we can work into that. So once the sprint planning is done, we make the sprint goal. Now comes the most important thing in the organization where a lot of time is wasted, daily stand-ups. According to the PMI guidelines, daily stand-up should be 15 minutes. And it's more of a status meeting. Nothing else, nothing more. You come there, you say, what I did yesterday, you're like share your progress. What I'm planning to do today, and now called talk about the issues, the roadblocks, the impediments that you may have in your organization, in the particular thing that you are doing. Talk about that pattern thing. That's a very important thing. Just share the information. Here, we are not looking to solve the issue. Now, what happens in the multiple organization? First question, like what you did yesterday, everyone is okay with that. Second question, what you are going to do today, everyone is okay with that. Third thing, what issues there, what roadblocks, impediment, everyone wants to solve the problems immediately. And as a result, this stand-ups goes from 15 minutes to 4 hours. And it should not be like that. Why? I'll tell you. Let's say there are 10 people in the meeting and only 2 people have issues. So why 8 people are working there? Mostly they are just sitting and listening while other people are talking. So what, as a scrum master, as a project manager, the best practices is to tell the team, okay, you have this issue. After the stand up, you guys can work together and maybe share the status tomorrow. This is very important in your stand ups to be time box. We call them as time box. The entire purpose of Scrum is to be time box. So once the 1 or 2 weeks over, then comes the sprint review. Now, in sprint review, what happens? Whatever you have made, the user stories, that is also known as requirements, whatever the user stories you have completed 100%. Now, this is very important. According to the definition of done. What is definition of done? Your own checklist. Okay, before showing it to the customer, is it working? Is it working? Is it working? Is it working? I show it to the customer. Then I show to the customer. Okay, customer, from my point of view, this thing is working. What do you say? Then the customer check according to their own acceptance criteria. Now, this is the job of the product owner to make sure that the definition of done and acceptance criteria match. And product team wants to make that definition of done by asking the product owner, by asking the business analyst. I'm saying the business analyst because your organization is using business analyst. According to PMI, they call it a product owner. What happened? You take a user story, and mostly, let's say, user story is written on the cards, on sticky notes. uh, as a user, I want this so that this can happen. Now this is one line user story. The product owner needs to explain it. What else we need in that feature? What else we need in that feature? What should work to put into that thing? Going back to the example of, if I want to upload a video on Facebook, what else things should be there? What limitations should be there?
Are you referring to pre-post conditions?
Yeah, you can say pre-post conditions, pre-post condition, but those, the definition of done should be written into the. Sorry about that. Okay, so we get that, we show it to the client. According to the client criteria, if the acceptance criteria match, then that user story get accepted. Once the user story get accepted, it goes into product increment. Now we have a product increment here. The things that are completed, now that can go back into the release roadmap. Okay, Fazil, do you have sprint retrospective in your organization? And if yes, how do you conduct that?
Yes, usually it happens at the end of a sprint. Usually you might say, for example, if a sprint started on Monday, then the next Friday of the next week, second week Friday.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
after the discussion, etc. And after the demo review, etc., the team does a retrospective
How you
in which
guys
we discuss.
basically, yeah.
So
If
in some projects we started using this board called Go Retro in the past, now called
mm-hmm,
Fun Retro, where we
mm-hmm,
have three things: what went well, what can be
well then,
improved, and
mm,
then we identify the action items for the next upcoming sprint.
that is the best purpose of that particular thing. So Daniel, how long that session is, and who, like, the entire team attend that, or only it is manager and the team or product owner is there? How do you do that? Can you give it a little bit more insight on that?
Yeah. So everyone in the team needs to fill in the retro board before the retrospective meeting. Everyone needs to put in at least one or two item for what went well, what needs to be improved, and
Mm,
then the whole team attends that retrospective meeting.
mm-hmm,
Usually we don't have this scrum in the last day you can call, because we have everything winded up a day before. So we
mm-hmm.
use that time, and it takes more than the scrum time, the daily scrum time. It lasts for like you can say an hour, and we try to
Okay.
cover it up in
So
an hour.
yeah, Daniel, instead of like asking everyone to write it before coming into that meeting to the board, wouldn't you think like let's give 5 minutes to everyone in the meeting and they can write it down at that time? Did you try that?
So ideally, we would want to have that information readily available, but what you are saying, we have to do that because no one fills in the retro before coming to meeting. So
Yeah,
essentially,
yeah.
it boils down to the same point. Yeah.
Yeah, because what I do recommend that to the organization, now this is a double effort. You are coming to the meeting and you are discussing there. You come there, maybe in a brainstorming session at the start, what went well, and that is the real purpose. What happened good, what bad, you are mad, sad, glad, and then doing a root cause analysis on that thing. Okay, this can be improved in that certain case. So that is basically sprint retrospective. So that's the entire Scrum framework. And one of the most important thing that we use in the Scrum is information radiators, task board, Kanban board, burn up chart, burn down chart. So are you guys using burn up, burn down chart? Anas, let me ask you. Guys, please still videos are turned off. Now it's been like, or you can turn the video on now. Yes, Anas. So are you guys are using information radiators? If yes, which one?
No, especially in sales, we are not using that. But
Why not?
I think
Where,
there.
how many sales you have done? Where do you stand? What is, like, you have to do follow up with that client? It can be used there. It can be
So
very well used there.
it's something
Used
like
there.
the calendar. We are using Click for that. We are managing these things in our calendar in Google Calendar. That's how we manage it. But
Hmm.
in sales and marketing specifically, there is no a defined methodology for to doing things as it's in the development side.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
we are working on customized processes that works best for that and that's what we are following right now. We are managing what Google
Thank you.
side and on CRM.
Thank you. Thank you, As. So information radiators are very important about that. So that's the entire Scrum for you guys. I hope the Scrum is clear. And if you have any question regarding the Scrum, you can ask. Then we can discuss further on other methodologies if we have some time. So if you have any question, put the question in the chat box. I have a question: how we can estimate time accurate in hours when we are going to solve a technical solution to a business requirement? But if the understanding four cases, I will have to do work, but we are going to into code. Okay, now it's a very good question by Ahmed regarding the estimations. I did not go into the estimation techniques because it can go up to 3 hour session. Now, in Agile, normally there are three ways of estimation techniques. One is ideal odds, which basically most organization does. What they do, they give their estimation in number of hours. It is gonna do work into that thing. And as a result, what happens? Most of the time, it takes more effort. Then we have affinity estimation. I really like this estimation technique, affinity estimation. In affinity estimation does not give the exact time about how much this thing is gonna take. It tells you, okay, this user story or this case study or this user case, whatever you may want to call in your business terms, that will take more or less time than that. Affinity means comparison. We are just comparing this user story with that, and we are going to say, okay, this will take more time or this will take less time as compared to that, and we work into that. That can be used better as compared to ideal odds. The third way is Ahmed, Fibonacci series. We use story points, and the story points are defined by the team and agreed by the entire team, which is based on Fibonacci series. Like as the user stories become more and more complex, we give story points according to that, and then we discuss them in planning focus to get the consensus on that. I hope that makes sense to you. Okay.
Amir, I have a question over here regarding
Yeah.
the affinity estimate that you just mentioned.
Yeah.
So, in order to compare one story with another, we have to
Hmm.
pick up a yardstick story, what we call a yardstick story.
Yes.
How to
Yes.
pick that one up, with whom we are going to do comparison for
Now,
all the other
now,
users.
now that depends. Have you done that kind of work or not? It all comes down to breaking down the work. Let's say the work, which in predictive we called as work breakdown structure. We are gonna build a website. Okay, so let's say we are gonna build a website. We are gonna divide the website into different parts. If we have done this part before, we can compare it with that. If we have done this part before, we can do that. If we have done this part, we can do that. Let's say we have never done this thing. Now here affinity estimation cannot be used. Your yardstick cannot be compared. For here, we need to use Fibonacci series. Here we need to talk to the experts and ask them how much story points would it take, how much it would take from that thing, then we can work. Affinity estimation work best when you already have a yardstick, or can be called as a benchmark, that you can use the benchmark on that because you built that thing into the past. Okay. BS face a practical challenge that they have to spend double the effort on explaining requirement once in the form of documentation, user story, then explaining it again to DevOps. How can we improve it efficiency? Now the important thing is that what BA can do, basically they can take a project manager or a leading developer, and this is being basically done by the organization where they have open structure. They have done two ways. Either they take team lead and project managers with the product owner, with the customer, and explain all the requirement in one go. Now the project manager and team leads also knows the requirement. The requirement elicitation is there, so that reduces the effort. Secondly, and very few organizations have done, but it has worked well. They record everything. They records their meeting, and then those meeting they shared it with that team, and of course in the business hours that team can review that thing, and now all of them have same understanding of every single thing. G, anyone else has any question? Okay, so going back to the slides. So we discussed the 12 principle of agile. This is one of the from Scrum Alliance. It's a very beautiful framework. I do recommend have a look at that. How product backlog is made, planning is done, sprint review, sprint retrospective is done. And if you are new to Scrum, just go to a scrum.org. Or I'm gonna share link with Mariam. You can download Scrum guide for free. It's like 35 pages, very easy written guide. I highly recommend you guys that go through that, read it. It will help you to understand Scrum in the best possible way. And coming back to the challenges that we have nowadays, the challenges that the top challenges for right now in the project or agile world is team members, especially in these virtual worlds, in hybrid worlds, to retain the team members, to work with the team member, and to work into that is very important. The most and the best way is give them a good pay, give them a better working environment. And this is the job of the product owner, project manager, and the company owner to make an environment in which team loves to work. And that's why more and more organizations are providing every single thing in the working environment. Please understand, it's not the work, it's the working environment, which because of which team members leave. The second challenge is customer experience, customer collaboration over contract negotiation. We need to help the customer. We need to understand the customer requirement. We need to have empathy, emotional intelligence to understand what the customer want and how we can provide the experience to the customer. Low cost of competitor. Now that is something I face on daily basis. My PMP training for batch is 499, one to one is 999. And in Pakistan and India, you can get training from $100. So that's always an interesting thing. Again, it goes back to the experience you provide, you supersede, you provide that value, and you increase your brand name. As a result, your competitor never stands a chance to that. Okay. Then challenges in VUCA world. We live in a VUCA world. VUCA means volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. It has been in this way, and COVID has made this as more VUCA world. And we will keep living in the VUCA world as we are planning. But the best way is to always prepare ourselves. The best way is to always keep learning. I highly recommend, if you haven't taken project management training, PMP or RMP, you can contact us and we can work into that. Upskill yourself, improve yourself. You are working now in one organization, tomorrow in another organization. Building on yourself as an individual is very important. So I highly recommend look at PMP and ACP and become certified. Just give you one example. My wife was working in one of the leading software house in Pakistan. Maybe you have heard about the name NetSol. She was working in NetSol for last 8 years. I kind of pushed her to do PMP, and I have the honor to taught her. So someone asked me 2 days back, what is the biggest honor in your project management field? I told them the biggest honor is I am the only one who was able to teach his wife to PMP. So she did PMP, and she became from a technical lead. She was basically senior software analyst. She became project manager, and then I helped to do ACP, Agile Certified Practitioner, PMP and ACP. And then she got a better job in Confis. There's another organization in Lahore, Confis. She got a job there 3 times more, and now she's getting a job in another country. She's coming with me to Dubai. So this happens only because of these certifications. I told you example about in South India, majority people are standing on themselves. If the organization does, bingo, that's the best thing that can happen. The organization does not do, we need to upscale ourselves. Every single one has to upscale on ourselves. We love to spend on everything, things like that. It costs almost 1.5 lakh, I guess, maybe more. I don't know about the current taxes in Pakistan, but we never, after graduation, we never put effort on ourselves. That is nothing. Thank you very much for your time, and it was an honor to talk to you guys. We are running out of the time, otherwise, I could have gone through more detail. If you want to connect me, just write Amer Ali PMP on any of the social media, and I can contact with you. Okay. Thank you, Amer. Thank you for coming. Well, discuss.
Thank you so much for your time, Amer.